from Atlanta.
Maroon and Pepsi, make sure you pay all your parking tickets. Park Atlanta does not fuck around.
It's the 9 Billion Names of Pod with Dan Bauman and Michael Reed. I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm the only one who thinks Falkor is creepy as fuck.
So, wow, bold stance. So let's talk about some stuff.
Yes, now that I've insured our parental guidance rating with 2 swears before we even start discussing it.
Do we address the Falkor thing, or do we just move along?
I find Falkor creepy. Now, take this. I have never seen the film.
Whoa.
I've only seen. I know.
Okay.
If I ever did, it was in high school on a home video rental, and I have a vague memory of maybe I've seen it, but I pretty much am sure I haven't. I just see pictures of Falkor, and I'm like, that looks wrong. That looks like a bad Muppet masquerading as.
It is a bad Muppet. It's a big giant Muppet head.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you don't know who Falkor is, you're in the wrong podcast. But
hey, you got a place in my heart because I've never seen the movie we're talking about. Is The Neverending Story?
Yes. Here's the problem, though.
It ended.
Well, it did end.
Wasn't there one sequel and then that was the end of it?
There was a sequel,
yeah.
Yes. Here's the problem with it, though. You, at this point, like watching it finally, it's not going to hold up. It's not going to make sense.
It won't have the same magic as if I saw it when I was 13.
Yeah, I was like 12 when I saw it, I think, and I was right in that spot. And it was one of those videos, like I said, my mom dated a guy who had a video store, which was a thing back in the day, kids.
Wow.
And so
I mean, that right there is
it was gold.
An amazing thing.
Holy shit. Well, it was because it was, Friday night, Mom would be like, okay, give me a list of movies you want me to bring home that didn't, if they don't rent, we'll take it. And I told you, eventually he literally just gave me Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
It was number 806, I remember it. And Neverending Story was one of those. And so we watched it, or I watched it over and over again because we didn't have a lot of movies. Right. But, and is it a Star Wars level classic? No. But it has its place. It's a weird little movie.
I will be the first to admit that some of my favorite films that I love now that I saw for the first time when I was, a child or a kid or a young teen or even very early 20s, were I to see them now, I would probably feel differently about them, or perhaps even hate them. Like but they got me at the right time.
Yeah, I don't. When I revisit stuff like that,
say almost fire.
when
every episode, Dan.
There it is.
Every episode.
There it is. Everyone drink. He said it. When I revisit stuff like that, the nostalgia of it all. I can go back to that place.
Exactly. Those kind of films are time portals. When I watch St. Elmo's Fire, which I do every other day.
I hope not.
No.
Even I don't watch Star Wars every other day.
Two to 3 times a year tops.
No, and that's a lot, but that makes sense.
It definitely sets me into that 14, 15-year-old, which is weird because when I first saw St. Elmo's Fire, I was really just barely Breakfast Club age.
Okay.
And I was, now I'm well past, and even watching it while I was in college and then post-college, which St. Elmo's Fire takes place just after they graduated from a 4-year university, it still takes me back to being 13 and 14.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird. Someone told me that you start with The Breakfast Club, then you go to St. Elmo's Fire, and then you go to The Big Chill.
Yeah.
Now, that's another film that I have seen, but that's a different... I mean, that was nostalgia for the 60s in the 80s.
Yeah,
and that doesn't resonate with me.
No, I think I tried watching that movie maybe once or twice, and I was far too young for it, so I didn't get
everybody on the planet, and that entire cast went on to do massive work.
Oh, of course.
I think even Kevin Costner got started as he was a dead body at the beginning or something. He was under a sheet. I can't remember the story, but like everybody in that film did massive.
Course. And it was a huge phenomenon, and but it was for the people of that age who grew up in the 60s.
Right. It really made the record industry realize that wow, if we can get a compilation of songs into a film and do a soundtrack, we can make a lot of freaking money.
Yeah, there was like Motown, a lot of Motown and stuff in that.
Yeah, the Big Chill soundtrack was like enormous.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, films. What about other stuff, Dan?
I recently discovered something that is quite joyful.
Now that's good touch. Do you know about bad touch? Oh, we're not.
No, we're not.
Oh,
No.
All right, continue.
As you may know, audio is a thing I enjoy, and I'm a big podcast junkie.
I use it every day. I put it in both my ear holes.
Right, exactly. The most recent podcast I discovered was by none other than number 10 himself, David Tennant, has started a podcast called David Tennant Does a Podcast With. He's only dropped a couple episodes, but I'm really enjoying it. The first one was with Olivia Colman.
Okay.
His Broadchurch co-star.
Well, and also isn't she the one from the Favorite?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And sidebar, Your Honor,
Mm-hmm.
I just watched a miniseries called The Night Manager.
Yes, I've heard. Yeah, she was in that too. Yeah.
Everyone said that was the greatest thing ever, and I watched it, and it's darn good.
Okay.
But what I came away with that is that Tom Hiddleston is a handsome fucking man.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really see that in Loki, at least for me. But I watched The Constant Gardener. I'm going, I could see how the ladies like him, because I never thought of Tom Hiddleston as like a sex symbol. He was just like an
Loki's
actor.
kind of greasy and
yeah, exactly. Tom Hiddleston in Night Manager, very attractive. But what I really enjoyed was an actress named Debicki, Elizabeth Debicki, I believe her name is. Mm-hmm. She's Australian, and at the time of filming that, she was 25 years old. And I was watching the scenes, and of course, standard gorgeous beyond comprehension. And I was watching the scenes, and I looked and went, maybe I should Google that. How tall is she's 6'2".
Wow.
I love her even more now. Nothing
close to my height, or almost taller than me, probably. Yeah.
I'm 6'3", so 6'2" is wonderful.
I'm almost 2, yeah. But
I mean, for me, any girl over 5'10" is tall and absolutely fabulous. But I've never had the concept of dating or whatever, and making out with a girl where we're right at the same, you kind of have to lean and down and tilt.
I've dated tall girls before. Yeah.
Which, short girls, nothing against you. I will lean.
Oh, yeah.
I will definitely lean. I will lean and tilt. I'll get on my knees.
Yeah, it's worth the,
It's worth the effort. But it's kind of a strange thing to...
for sure. Especially when you're tall as us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when I run across... Occasionally I will. I'll run across a guy who's like 6'6", 6'8".
Mm-hmm.
It's very disturbing for me.
Yes.
Because I'm not used to ever looking up to anybody because I'm so freakishly tall.
Yeah, I was at the Park Tavern one night, and my friend Matt Jones, who used to be a DJ, and he used to work at 99X, and my friend Christian, who's a Dad's Garage guy, and he works at Floyd County animation and stuff.
Oh my God, he's the one where they say, "Oh, hi, Christian," in C-Lab 2021.
Maybe.
I bet you it is.
Maybe.
Because I thought, the only Christian I know of is that guy, and then all of a sudden you said it's Floyd County.
Yeah.
That's the subcursor, the postcursor to 7030, which is the production company that came before Floyd County that did C-Lab.
Okay.
And they had that Ted Knight, like, "And over here, oh, hi, Christian." Hi.
And his animation style is kind of what all that stuff, his art style is where that all kind of came
I'd
from.
give anything for another season of C-Lab with Frisky Dingo.
But he's also 6'6", 6'7", and Matt is 6'8". And I was talking to them, and we were having this conversation about something. In the middle of it, I just stopped and said, "Just so you guys know, I am never the shortest guy in a conversation. And it's really freaking me out."
Yep. I mean, if you're going through life as a woman who's 5'2", chances are you're always looking
You
up
get used
all
to
the
it,
time,
yeah.
and you have no problem because that's just
how it is.
that's the normal. So yeah, so my goal in life is to meet Elizabeth Debicki and, well, I mean, obviously not kiss. Well, I mean, if she's up for it, sure. But I mean, just like have a conversation with a beautiful woman who's like right at my height,
eye to eye.
eye to eye. It's like that's a thing. Anyway, how do we get off on that?
Going back to Olivia Colman.
Olivia Colman, yeah, she was in Night Manager, was very good in it.
She was in. There's a wonderful sketch show off the BBC called That Mitchell and Webb Look.
Yes,
yes, David Mitchell and Rob Webb, and she was the Carol Cleveland, for lack of a better term, of that show.
BBC, can BBC just like go on hiatus for like a year at minimum so I can get caught up? I mean, not Constant Gardener, the Night Manager, is 3 years old. I just got to it now.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm just going to get to next?
What?
Roots, The Next Generation. I'm
30
30 years behind on that. I did watch it when I was a kid, but I feel I
watched the original Roots when I was a kid.
I don't know if I did because I have no memory of it, because I have a certain scene
that
I totally remember from what I thought was Roots, and then I watched Roots and went, that scene I remember, it wasn't in there. What the heck? And then I looked like, oh, there's a whole nother. That's the one that I watched. It wasn't the original.
I think it was almost like a school thing. Like we almost were required to watch it.
Well, when Roots came out, it was huge.
Oh, enormous.
I mean, for the black community,
Very
for
important.
America, for everything. I mean, that was an insanely important thing of television being done.
Well, because the book was such a huge phenomenon.
Right, but to get that on
TV,
to get that on television, that's very important.
That was like even the 70s.
I think it was. I want to say like 78.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, because the Next Generations.
Okay.
Because they take it from just after Roots, I think, to the 1960s or something.
Okay, I definitely didn't see it then.
Okay, well, I'm reading the description of it, like, oh, okay, so the scene that I'm thinking, which I won't talk about, but it's a good scene as opposed to.
The scene I remember is LeVar Burton getting whipped. Is very bad. I mean,
I tell you, I have a lot of. You know that I collect. How would we call them? Black party comedy records, like Red Fox.
Yes.
There's a label called Laugh, LAFF, and they did pretty much, well, they did exclusively up to a point, and then they had a couple of white people, but it was what was the underground of black comedy in the late 60s all the way through to like mid 80s ish before the label died. And that's where Richard Pryor was first released, before he moved on to, I think, Warner Brothers. And then set himself on fire and, did some movies and retired. And there's a lot of material on those Laugh records where they make fun of Roots.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
satire,
Satire, you know.
It was ripe for that, for that community, yes.
And, guy we go, Toby! My name is Toby! Damn that bird! And I'm like, okay. And then there's some where it's like, oh yeah, I'd go up to Massa and that kind of thing. And that was my first exposure to Roots, probably was hearing the satire of it. Kind of like my first experience of anything to do with Jaws or The Godfather was watching the parodies on Saturday Night Live.
Of course, yeah.
And they were funny in their own right. And then years later, I finally got around to watching those films.
Real thing, yeah.
And I'd break out laughing in the middle of a scene that's not for laughing. And people are like, what the hell? It's the SNL thing. Yeah, but I've never seen this movie before.
Yeah, the whole orange thing.
The orange thing with Belushi.
Yep.
Exactly. And, of course, Land Shark. I mean, on its own, Land Shark is funny. But knowing that it came around in the time of Jaws.
Right, and if you think about it, how else would you parody a movie that takes place on the water?
Exactly.
On, at Rockefeller Plaza.
Well, no, they've done some stuff with some creative, but yes.
But that was your basic.
Mostly it's there in a boat, and there are stagehands on side, off screen, that are throwing buckets of water on them, which is always hilarious.
But Land Shark, so much funnier that it just.
Oh, yeah.
When you go like base, as low tech as possible.
Exactly.
It's super fun.
Exactly. Although I will say that it was not as funny as Jaws 3D. Now, that movie was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
So bad, so hilarious. Anyway, Olivia Colman, podcast.
Back to David Tennant's podcast. The most recent episode that dropped was Jodie Whittaker.
Oh.
And it's wonderful because she's just talking in her normal, unbelievably thick Yorkshire accent. And it's at times almost indiscernible, and it's wonderful. It's so beautiful to listen to. What?
Undiscernible?
Yeah, she indiscernible. Like you can't understand what she's saying because it's so fast and it's so
incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and she it just Jordan. It just got this.
Miss Jordan.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's wonderful, and he did an episode with Whoopi Goldberg, which was really interesting. It was a really interesting.
Well, as much as you kind of go, oh, that Whoopi. She's done some shit.
Well, and she was on a sci-fi show that was iconic,
right?
As well.
She's EGOTed.
Yes, she is.
I mean,
absolutely.
Say what you want about her performance in Ghost. It was a performance, and apparently they Marissa Tomei'd her, and
but it counts.
It counts. It's not. That kind of thing usually doesn't happen anymore.
No. Well, unless they read the wrong fucking name like they did 2 years ago that we watched live.
Boy, how would you feel? I mean, La La Land was kind of, lighthearted compared to Moonlight.
Oh, yeah. Different ends of the spectrum, for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely feel kind of, if my film Moonlight was kind of a punchline now, just because of something someone else did that had nothing to do with me, my film, or anything that we created on screen.
Yes.
So it'll die down. There'll be some more mileage out of it, but
but it's already gone.
No one's still talking about Brando having that Native American woman accept the Oscar for him.
Right.
So.
But the next episode, just to wrap up the David Tennant thing, the next episode is Sir Ian McKellen, and that will be very interesting. So,
have they ever acted together?
I believe they have. I think they did some Shakespearean thing together.
It's the BBC, so if you check IMDb, like, oh my gosh, they've done. Ian McKellen's been active since the '60s, so chances are you could Kevin Bacon just about anybody that you know now that did something.
And it might have been he might have been in a small part in the Casanova thing that Tennant was in, but Tennant's been in a lot of stuff too.
Yep. I would very much like to see Ian McKellen make an appearance in a little TV show that's about to come up before too long on the CBS app.
Discovery? Oh no, the
Picard.
Yes. Oh.
I mean, those two
Admiral so-and-so.
Those two would be amazing.
I can't wait for that. I'm most likely going to get the app for that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
to see that show.
That's mandatory. I mean, I'll get it for that, but Twilight Zone's my big thing.
Yeah, and that too.
Because if it's being if the showrunner on that whole thing is Jordan Peele, I trust the man.
Yes, absolutely.
I trust the man.
When we saw what did I see? When I saw Glass, they had the trailer for his next movie, Us, which I hadn't seen before. Holy crap. What an amazing idea and looks terrifying.
And he definitely, I think, knows not to fall into the M. Night Shyamalan trap.
No.
Just keep the quality of the writing up and don't try for the twist. Get Out had a great twist. Like, what? They're in... But it wasn't like at the end twist.
I have not seen it. I have still
what?
Yes, I know. I know. Yes, I know. So
dude,
don't blow it for me. I know. It's a failure.
I'm tempted to call you racist for that. Yes. Says the guy who only is getting to see Roots
Yeah.
So, but no, it's definitely worth it. And
yes, I know.
And it's genuinely unsettling in a lot of places.
That's probably why I haven't gotten to it.
But luckily, there's definitely some comedic relief in there.
Yeah.
Something to break up. Because if you took out there's one character that provides about 80% of the comedic relief. If he was taken out of the film, which he could probably be kind of taken out maybe, that would just be a horrifyingly depressing film from start to finish.
Got it.
So, but yeah, it's there's a reason why it's being taught in college.
Interesting.
It's being broken down and discussed.
And like I said, that trailer for the new one, Us, looks insane.
Yeah. That one I may have to go to the theater for. Just saying, because that's worth it. Hey, apparently Alita Battle Angel is doing well in the theaters, but apparently the competition is nothing else.
Yes, there isn't anything else. It's one of those things I think it'll do fine, but it's not gonna make its money back just yet. Like, it hasn't blown up because it opened this past weekend, right? Or this weekend,
right? President's Day weekend, and
it's done okay, but it didn't blow the roof off everything. And I think it's because people don't know what it is,
right? It has it's taken from some source.
It's from anime, I believe,
that people love. Which, of course, if they do it like what's the one that Scarlett Johansson did, was Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
And
because they did an animated Ghost in the Shell, which I saw, which it's very anime, it's very Japanese, it's very different culture and somewhat hard for American to I don't want to say for us to comprehend, but it's very different style than we're used to storytelling.
If it's soaked in Japanese culture, things that we're not used to, then perhaps certain cues that would be, don't have to explain it in the movie, we wouldn't get.
Right.
But I'm of the mind that no, be true to the source material. Don't dumb it down for Americans if we don't get it. Problem is that we're the biggest film market. Maybe
China's pretty big.
You know what? Just based on population, they're bigger. Yeah. But keep in mind that
consumerism, it's us. Yeah.
Consumerism, I believe it's us because China has the population, but there's a good portion of it that's in rural areas that doesn't doesn't even have the internet.
Exactly.
And that's something that we have here as well. And what's our excuse?
Right. Well, we have much more concentrated.
But we got to put our money towards a wall.
Yeah.
It's so important because tunneling doesn't exist.
I hear there's an emergency going on.
Yep. Well, you can tell there's an emergency. Trump immediately went golfing right after announcing it.
Right.
So he's...
And in the middle of the speech of declaring the emergency, said, I
don't have to do this, but I want to do this.
Right.
Like, thank you. You just handed the plaintiff their key, exhibit.
Opening statement.
Yeah.
But anyway...
but we got our Trump dig in.
There it is.
And moving on. Alita Battle Angel.
I want to see it. It looks really interesting, and it looks visually spectacular. The problem I had with the whole thing was I've been seeing trailers for this thing for a year and a half. Every one of them looks like a completely different movie than the last one. It's like, okay, is it Pinocchio? Is it Rollerball? Is it AI? Is it what the fuck is it?
Can't it be all of them?
It can, but I don't know which one it was.
Yeah. That's where a lot of films, I think, fail in their marketing. It's like they have a film and they tell, like, market this film. All right, can we have a cut of it? No. Sometimes they just, here's some footage. Do something with that. Or can you give us a synopsis of it? Well, here, it's not translating. If you don't know what the film is, you can't properly market it. I can't tell you the number of trailers I've seen where I'm like, that seems interesting, but what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And sometimes they explain it too much to
give you the whole movie.
Well, there's giving you the whole movie, and then there's the great kid gets powers via whatever. Then they have to battle somebody or themselves or and then I'm just like, I'm done with kids with powers. I'm done. I'm fucking done with it. I'm done with mutants. I'm over it. I'm sick of it.
So you're not going to see Shazam.
I will see Shazam. I just, all the things that are being drawn from these YA books.
No, I get it. For sure.
I'm just like,
if I hear the Chosen One ever again,
that's one of the tropes.
I am so done with that.
I'm like, you know what? The last time that was even barely viable was The Matrix.
Yeah.
And even then, it turned into shit as the movie series progressed on.
I am so sick of the Chosen One, and I am so sick of the Prophecy. I'm done with
Is
those
he the one that
tropes.
fulfills? So how did this prophecy come about?
Yeah.
Tell us more about it, because obviously it is the prophecy and it's coming true. So let's get back to who knew this and how and what. No, it's been lost to time. I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, obviously things that it happens in real life. I get it. But it's a trope that's relied on so much. That's the reason why I'm a great connoisseur of, sci-fi and fantasy and all this stuff. I love that. I can't write that. I can't. It's not in my wheelhouse. You might as well ask me to write a fucking Western or something. Actually, I could probably write a Western far better than I could some sci-fi films. Although, let's face it, some sci-fi films are basically just Westerns in space.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And the problem was most sci-fi, it's all goes back to Tolkien. Well, I mean, fantasy at least does. Goes all back to Tolkien, and it's like I don't want to say everything's been told, but it just drops into the same things over and over and over and over.
Sometimes they find an interesting way to tell stories like that.
Like Game of
Such
Thrones.
as Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
I mean, yes, it has all the tropes, but it delves into the characters' lives and motivations, and it's not just, he's the chosen one, and you don't get any further. It's, it's
Right.
a fingernail deep.
We're almost caught up. We just finished season 6, so we've got season 7 to go before.
How you liking it?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I get it now. And the most amazing thing to me is the not just the care taken in the storytelling, but the amount of time they allowed the story to grow and to take. I mean, luckily they had a giant amount of source material.
See, this is what happens when you don't take The Stand and cram it into a 2-hour movie.
Or take The Dark Tower and make a 90-minute movie out of it.
You got to let the material breathe. If you try to... Remember when they rebooted Bionic Woman and she went from, I don't know what's what, to Bionic in the first episode?
Right, exactly.
No! Then we don't care about her transformation from normal to Bionic because it was just there so quickly. We didn't learn who the non-Bionic Woman was, so we don't care about who the Bionic Woman is.
Yes. The fact that at the end of the first season of Game of Thrones, the Starks are sent to the winds and gone in different places, and it takes 4 more seasons before any of them come back to meet to each other in contact with one another.
Yep.
It's astounding. I mean, it's absolutely astounding.
I'm pretty sure you've gotten to a certain holding of a door.
Yes.
Did that just break your fucking heart?
Well, it did and it didn't.
I mean, the actual death was like, all right, but when you find out how it happened and through the warging and like,
yes.
Oh my God.
Like I knew it's the interesting thing about Game of Thrones for me has been being spoilers. Yeah, sorry.
Trust me, if you haven't seen Hold the Door scene, by now,
that's exactly what happened. Me just being around fandom for so long,
you knew something.
I knew a ton of stuff. It was like I knew the Red Wedding and I knew Hold the Door and I knew a lot of stuff. I didn't know the details. I didn't know how they happened, which was good. It helped in the respect that it's a very dense piece and there's a lot of characters. So I already knew, and I was able to guide Courtney through it as we were watching it. Like, oh, that must be Jaime, and that must be Tyrion, and that must be. So
I will admit to having watched certain episodes and going, I don't remember who that person is.
Oh yeah,
and then waiting and then seeing in context like, oh, he was in his armor and he's the thing in the... Got it.
Right. It took me 4 seasons before I remembered Jorah Mormont's name. Daenerys' guy, the night guy. Yeah,
right. The grayscale.
Yes.
Boy, man, talk about an older man with a thing for a young girl.
Oof.
That is so... It's not creepy. It's just very kind of sad and stoic, and I think he has a big part to play coming up.
We'll see. I mean, like I said, we're 1 season behind, but the whole Hodor thing, I knew Hold the Door was a thing, and that's why he said that, but I didn't know that they fucking caused it.
Yes,
that was the amazing part about it.
Yes, that to me, that kind of real human thing happening, that's the kind of shit that I dig. That's the kind of stuff that I write. And seeing that, and it just destroyed me. I'm just like, oh, you're in my wheelhouse now, man.
And they haven't really dealt with that yet. Like he, at least in the show, he has not realized it, or made mention of, holy shit, that was my fault or her fault.
I have a feeling we're done with that. We're not going to
Probably.
There's so
Probably.
fucking much, you know. And the way I've heard it, I no longer have a direct source to J.R.R. Martin?
George R.R.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
George R.R. Martin. What's with the R.R.'s?
Yeah.
Because he was friends with Harlan, who they worked together on the 80s Twilight Zone.
I did not know that.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
And he's a lazy fucking writer, confirmed by someone who knows him.
Got it.
And I understand. I mean, if you think it's difficult to watch with all the characters, imagine that's like 40% of what's on the page.
Yes.
It takes a great amount of, you just can't like, I guess I'll write today. You have to psych yourself up.
It has to be a job. You have to write all day, every day.
But it's something that you have to roll yourself into that frame of mind and push everything else out, because your brain just, you can barely feed and bathe yourself when you're in that kind of zone where you're juggling 400 different pieces, storylines, characters, myths, things like, did I just contradict? It's enough. You almost need a dramaturg or a script supervisor, you know, some archivist, you know, to go over things, you know. And that's why on these, you know, films that are adapted from books, hire a nerd. You may not even have to pay them.
Yeah.
Someone who knows the books backwards and forwards. Say, all right, sign your NDA, read the script. Wrong, no, change that. Why? Okay. That's what, you know, sometimes when you're writing, if you're doing such an expansive universe as that, you almost need a partner to just kind of keep track of where cities are and people and what the history is. And did I already, you know, I mean, that's from my point of view. He may have it all in his head and it's no problem. That's not his problem.
Well, I have a theory on the whole thing, like why the books,
Well, I can tell you what's causing a lot of the holdup now that's somewhat legitimate. He's had his hand in Game of Thrones, but also these prequels. There's one that's definitely greenlit and going. I don't know if there's another one. Hopefully they won't Who Wants to Win $1 Million this thing and overdo it. You know, like, hey, we got Game of Thrones, it's popular, let's do a prequel. No, let's do 2 prequels.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You're going to lose people, you know?
Well, they won't until after Game of Thrones is done.
Oh, yeah. When Game of Thrones is, I have a feeling that when Game of Thrones debuts, HBO Go is going to explode.
Yeah.
Because every person on the planet will be trying to stream it. It'll be bootlegged within 5 seconds of it starting.
Right.
It'll be the biggest event.
Well, I was going to say, my theory is that the climate is so shitty right now.
We need escapism.
Well, it's not that. I mean, the nerd climate is so shitty.
Yeah. I'm talking about just the general climate.
Well, yes, but I mean
Hashtag fuck Trump.
It would seem as if how can I say this?
George R.
R. Martin.
Okay.
He might feel like no matter what ending he comes up with,
it'll never satisfy.
Anybody.
He doesn't want to George
and that's
Lucas
why
it.
he like, oh well, no book, and they finish it on the show, and then he'll come back around and be like, oh well, no, this is how it really ends, and like
maybe the ending of Game of Thrones is a trial balloon sent out. Like, how do they like that? Oh, they love it. Great, I'll write the version of that.
I'll write
and continue. Oh, they hated, you know, all of it except for this one thing. All right, you know
that was, and you know what, that's kind of legitimate, but it's also kind of cowardly.
It's you're right.
Write
it's
your
legitimate,
story.
Cowardly, but if you're the author, you are the creator of that world that doesn't exist without you. How you get to it, you know.
But the problem is, it's now being done in another medium, and it's going to end.
Yeah.
So it's a unique situation.
I mean, they were saying since the series started that hopefully he'll get the next book out before
they catch up.
Before they catch up. They caught up.
They caught up and they've surpassed by
exactly.
a long way. Now they're going to fucking end it.
Well, the thing is that he has in his head how it ends, and he is, under lock and key told the showrunners, here, this person is this, they do this, and they go, fine, and they fleshed it out themselves. Yeah. Which, you know what, depending, he's a large gentleman of some age, yes. not elderly by any means, but he's getting up there.
Yeah.
We may not have him the whole time, and maybe the only ending we'll ever get to Song of Ice and Fire is what they do in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's my thought.
So, hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
I'd like to see. He said at one point, I think there are 3 books remaining to get to the end the way he wants it, and he's been working on the first of the 3. Judging by his pace, I don't think he could.
Well, he put out one of those prequel books, and it's like, well, why? Why are you starting a whole other thing before you finish the main thing?
Because the money's good and it's easier on him. And I can understand, if you're a ditch digger, for lack of another, no one's going to look and say, God, man, you're 80 years old. Why don't you keep digging ditches? Like, I'm fucking old. I want to retire. Just because. Am I not making sense? People think people in the arts should do it until they die. I should be on stage playing until I die. I should write all the books I want till I die. And you can if you want. But at a certain point, like Sean Connery said, I have done my thing. I am now retired. And people look at that and go, oh, what a shame. Whereas the person who stops digging the ditches, who stops being a professor or whatever and retires, they don't get the same kind of, oh.
The difference, though, is he has started something, and that's what gave him his ability to retire.
Right. The difference between George R.R. Martin and Sean Connery retiring is somewhat tenuous because they're different situations.
Completely. Well, Stephen King, for example. Stephen King, for 20 years, was like, every once in a while, I'm going to put out a Dark Tower book. And then one night he's walking down walking his dog, and he gets hit by a minivan and almost dies, and goes, holy shit, I better finish this thing, and finished it.
Yeah.
And because there is a responsibility to the fans. Yes, it's his thing.
Yes,
it's his art.
I say if you start something that's like the first of, let's say, 10 books and you're on 8, yes, I suppose you have a responsibility. But let us not forget, going back to Harlan again, for 30 years he has owed the last Dangerous Visions. Okay. I don't know if you, I think it was the late 60s, very early 70s, he did a thing called Dangerous Visions, which he solicited all his writer friends. Mm-hmm. Hey, send me the stories that are out there. I mean, that go there, that the magazines won't publish. It's too much. And he collected up some of the most groundbreaking science fiction, speculative fiction that has ever been collected. It was a landmark book. He did another one called, again, Dangerous Visions, with a promise that, it might even be a 2-volumer. There will be a last Dangerous Visions. And he collected stories. And the book never happened. And some would say, did Harlan owe it to people to put that together?
But there's a difference to, I've started a story and I'm not going to give you the ending.
Exactly.
I see where you're saying.
Yeah.
But I still think, you do have a responsibility if you start a thing.
I mean, if you're Sean Connery and you get offered a role and turn it down because you're retired, that's one thing. If you retire midway through a movie trilogy, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, or if you midway through a movie.
Or a movie.
That's my point.
Just
you start a project and you don't finish it.
Yeah.
And if you die, that's a different thing.
Right.
But if you just walk away from the middle of a thing that's not finished, that's...
Or procrastinate. I'll get to set tomorrow, I promise.
Yeah. And you drag it out for years and years. So I don't know. It's an interesting call. You know,
the thing is that I don't feel as deeply as some do because I have not started reading Song of Ice and Fire.
I have not either.
Because when I heard this was coming out, you know my rule. If I hear there's a movie or a TV adaptation and it's on my list of things to read, it gets pushed down the list so I can experience the film, the movie, whatever it is, on its own terms. and I always consider that to be like the Cliff Notes. That's the Cliff Notes. Now I'm going to read the full thing that fleshes it all out, that you could, the inner dialogue that they don't, they can't do with enough voiceover. Sometimes they try to do it with voiceover, but you get more. It's always,
absolutely.
It's always more. And then I can go, oh, okay, I see what they did in the film. I'm glad. And that be fun. The other way is I read it. I've already seen this world. This world is now in my head.
Yeah.
And then I watch it and go, wrong, no. That door shouldn't be shaped like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So eventually I will.
Well, it was funny when we started Game of Thrones. I was like, this is really good. But I'm good. I don't think I need to read the books. And I probably won't watch the series again. And we're in, like I said, we just finished season 6. And I went back and started watching season 1 again. And it was a revelation because I was like, I know who everybody is. And I know what they're talking about. And I know this and I know that. And it was like even better the second time. And then I'm like, oh, crap, now I want to read the books. But I'm not going to do that yet. And not until he finishes it.
How do you like Tyrion slapping bitches left and right?
Well, that bitch needed to be slapped.
Slapping Joffrey. I mean,
that's a beautiful thing.
Slap a Joffrey here, slap a Joffrey there. Oh, he's still talking? Slap Joffrey again.
Yeah.
Although he probably came to regret that a little bit later on.
A little later on, yeah. Well, when I finish 7 and we get to the end of the thing, we'll go more on
when you're caught up and before the new season starts, or actually technically it's the continuation because it's such a small amount of episodes. I think they're only doing 6.
They're only doing 6, but they're like an hour and a half.
Yeah, so basically you're getting like 6 films, and I think it's March. It's next month.
April, I believe.
Is it April?
I believe it's April.
Okay, so hopefully you'll finish in time.
Oh, we will. We will.
And we can do a pre-end, a penultimate Game of Thrones podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
And then hit it on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So that would that'll be interesting. Joffrey's not a spoiler alert. Joffrey's not around to slap anymore, but Tyrion's pimp hand is strong.
Yep.
It can, I can see some of the Unsullied getting a bitch slap maybe.
He's still not my favorite character though.
Oh, really? Let's see. Do you have a favorite character?
I absolutely have a favorite character.
Is she a Stark?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
She's amazing. If you're speaking of Arya, she's amazing. She's a phenomenal character. Not my favorite character in the show. Male
or female?
Male.
Better not be Jaime.
No. Not even a main character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, then I could go through 19 characters and not get it. Go ahead, tell me who.
Sir Bronn of the Blackwater.
I don't.
Tyrion's henchman, his sidekick guy.
Oh, okay.
The guy who sounds like Roger Waters. Kills me. He's my favorite character in the entire thing because, like, he's just doing his thing. He's like, I'll kill you. I'll not. There was a scene with him in season 2, right before Blackwater, where they're in we're in the tavern and he's got a naked girl on his lap and the Hound is there and the Hound basically bows up on him and he's like, come on, do we have to do? And he stands up and the Hound is getting ready and he's just reaching behind him like, all right, and pulling that knife out of his back, just not worried about it one bit, and he just destroys me. He's so good.
I would have to say the one I like the most, and she's had very, very, very few scenes, Lady Marmot.
Yes,
she is taking none of your shit.
I've only seen her. She's only had like one scene that I've seen when Jon and Sansa were calling in the banners. And
exactly,
like, you could have 62 men.
Answer the call. Yeah. Answer the bloody fucking call.
That kid is amazing.
Yeah. I want to see. I and it's cool because it's a kid. I don't want her to have been. It's been so long that she's like a young adult now. No, it's cool when she's basically
she's probably like 12 now.
Yeah, is it 12? Okay,
but I don't know. She was like 10 or something.
Yeah, like an 8-10-year-old whatever being so badass.
She's Lady Mormont of
like,
Bear Island.
I will answer the call.
Yeah, we will not break that oth today.
Exactly. Oh yeah, this is
so good.
Awesome. And I will say that I definitely want to someday own a house that has a large opening in the middle for pushing bitches out whenever I feel like
fly.
It. Yeah, exactly. Whee! Have you seen some of the new Avengers Endgame trailers?
Yes, and that was the thing I was going to say. I may have mentioned this earlier. What I read was that none of the marketing at all for Endgame will go past the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Right, but there's another thing that's been noticed.
No, what?
It appears, perhaps, that some characters have been digitally removed from the trailers based on, let's just say the cinematography and directing in Avengers is not haphazard.
Okay.
Shots are framed. Things are balanced. And some of the shots are weighted really to one side with a glaring hole, and people are going, who is that supposed to be, and why don't they want us to see who it is?
Do you remember the trailers for Infinity War?
Hulk?
The Hulk was in Infinity War trailers in Wakanda.
Keep in mind,
He was not there in the movie.
we got the closest we got was Hulkbuster suit.
That's
and,
what I mean.
And 5 seconds of no.
Yeah, they
and then,
swapped him out. He was in the first beginning, and he got his ass beat by Thanos. But he, in the trailers, in that Wakanda battle, you saw the Hulk straight up, and they just flat out Stephen Moffat lied to us, 100%. They were like, "Yeah, we had to. We had to," and I'm like, "Good, do that." I'm 100% down with that. So maybe I hadn't noticed that.
There's a couple of scenes where that spacing looks really. It's not like they're walking and someone's falling behind. It's like they're standing.
Yeah, there's a hole there.
There's a hole.
Interest.
Don't know what it is. Just it's like. No one's going to get mad and go, then I'm not going to see it if you're going to lie to me. Like, bullshit.
Bullshit.
No.
I don't want things spoiled. I don't want, because it's smart because the nerds have already torn down those trailers frame by frame to see what they can see and pull out.
I mean, if you are worth anything in marketing, you know that they tear down the stuff frame by frame. They look for, pictures that were taken on set and they search, and you can do this, for registrations for web domains.
Yes,
that's how we find out sometime, or people leak it because the lead time on making toys is, that's how we found out a couple of Star Wars film names.
Yeah, and the problem there, the toy thing makes me insane because there are full on spoiler toys.
Yep.
That it's like, really, why don't you just wait a quarter until the movie's out? I know there's a lot of lead time.
There's a lot of lead time.
But
then there's the
I get all that, but
manufacturing. I know
they take such pride in hiding spoilers that
I know. Well, it's
imperfect.
This is this is not the 70s when oh my gosh, there's a Hammerhead figure, awesome. It's known in advance.
Yeah, it's marketing. I mean, I get it. It's money, but I don't like it.
Have you heard the rumor about what the name of episode 9 is going to be?
I've heard a couple of rumors.
Let's hear yours.
The one I kept saying was Balance of the Force.
Yes, that's the one I've heard as well.
Yeah.
And okay, if that is it, all right, they got to get the Force in there somewhere, probably. I mean, the First Order strikes back.
No,
or
that would be a good ending. They say, what I've also read is that the only person on Earth who knows what the title is JJ, and he hadn't told anybody yet. We got to be close to a trailer. I mean, we've got to be.
Well, they just announced that episode 9 has finished filming.
Yep.
So now
principal photography is complete.
Right. It's all post now.
Yeah.
Which, of course, they've got to. What are they doing this in December?
Yeah.
They better hustle.
I mean, I'm sure they've been doing it, but still, yeah, they are.
Well, look at the credits in the last one. It's like, oh, look, there's ILM and them and there's like 9,000.
Yeah, so they've got
FX
every company in the world working on this.
Exactly. Like, all right, you got that scene. How much?
But yeah, they are. That does seem like they're cutting it close. You would have thought last summer, Principal would have been done.
Oh yeah,
give them a year and a half to do.
Well, keep in mind they had to totally rejigger the story, and that might have taken some time out of.
True.
They may have wanted to be filming, before Christmas of last year. But because they had to,
they had to figure
deal
some
with,
shit out
with Carrie's death.
Well, the reports from both, I believe his name is Todd Fisher, Carrie's brother, and Billy Lord, her daughter, are that the way they've handled it is beautiful. Like they handled it the best way they could, and they are using unused footage, and she will be in it for a while, and they've handled it.
Okay.
So we'll see.
I mean, if I was in their shoes, the first thing I do is I would go back and I would log every unused scene that Carrie was in and go, that's too identifiable from but we could use that, and just, and who knows, they may actually be able, well, they will be able to, if they want to, extract out of a scene that they didn't use everything but Carrie and put her in another scene. Sure. They have the power.
Yeah. That's how they did some of the stuff in Rogue One during the Battle of Scarif. They had some of the original X-Wing pilots from the Death Star battle.
Yep.
That they just found other shots that they never used, and wasn't Ryan Johnson, was Gareth Edwards just they said, oh, I have this box of old footage. Holy shit! And was able to put new scenes of those guys.
I know, that was one of my favorite things about Rogue One, was like, oh my God, that sounds just like...
It's gold later and red later. Holy shit.
But you think about it, of course it would be, because they're getting the plans that they will then use to do the thing on the Death Star.
This is before that thing happened, not too long before.
I mean, I don't know what the exact lead time is from the end of Battle of Scarif to, let's blow this thing and go home.
Yeah, it's a couple of weeks, maybe.
Is it really?
I
would have thought a little bit
it would
longer.
have to be, but it's...
Yeah.
Depending on how, because it's unclear as to how long does it take him, how long is he still with Obi-Wan on Alderaan? How long does it take him to get to Alderaan? How long are they on the Death Star? How long does it take him to get back to Yavin? How long, it's tight.
It was pretty quick on Tatooine.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's what I mean. It seems like, they were together for 2 days, but were they? But anyway.
Well, he was very distraught when he was struck down by Vader, so there must have been some... See? These are the character things. I'm like, there hasn't been enough time or development for him to really have that bond. Mm-hmm. But then again, he taught him the ways of the Force, or started to. So there, but anyway, let's not dissect the emotional attachments of Star Wars characters. That'll be our next episode.
Yes.
When we do the first 10 minutes and dial in.
Exactly. Oh dear.
Yes. Well, hey, we're going to have extensive discussion about the guy who hit his head on the bulkhead door.
That's right.
Because that's important.
Oh, there's fan stories about that guy. There has to be.
Oh, of course. Have you seen a preview that contains one of the most horrific things ever seen?
Possibly.
It's very blue.
Oh. Really? You think it's horrific?
I think it's terrible.
Why?
It looks wrong. Now, keeping in mind that no one's done this story this way, live action.
Right. We're talking about, obviously, Aladdin.
I mean, no diss on Will Smith. Loving some Will Smith. It creeps me the fuck out.
I've seen the backlash on this. I don't understand it at all.
I don't like it.
Well, here's the problem. If he wasn't blue... everyone would have lost their fucking minds.
It's not. What's that? Blue. It's not that he's blue.
Okay.
I mean, he has to be blue.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about the way it's done that just it sits wrong with me. This may be uncanny valley territory.
Okay.
That I can't put my finger on it, but it feels wrong.
Okay.
Kind of like watching was it the Polar Express and going.
Fair.
No.
Okay, fair enough. That movie was fucking creepy. But
exactly.
But
it wasn't meant to be creepy.
It was the infancy of that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly.
But this is not.
And this is Disney. I'm sure that it will be fine when it comes out.
Yes, I'm sure that's not 100% complete.
Right.
That's probably 90% complete.
Right, and seeing a little bit out of context, okay. Not saying that I would go to see live action Aladdin in the theater, but it would go on my Netflix list.
I've heard that
who's in the cast? Maybe
it's
is it a good cast?
It's a lot of actual
Arab actors.
Arab actors. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, almost all of them are.
Yeah, you don't. With Will Smith as the genie, there's your name. Okay. Because he's
cast it right.
Then cast it correctly.
You have to in this day and age.
You know,
there are plenty of good actors of Arab descent who can do that.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing. It's like make the X-Men spandex costumes the right color. Same thing with the actors.
Yes.
It takes place in Arabia, or
Yes.
I don't know. Did they use a mythical land?
Well, it's Agrabah is the city, but it's Arabia.
It's in Arabia, so that that general Saudi area.
Yes.
It's not going to be Scarlett Johansson as
Right.
as the princess.
The one thing they have done absolutely right, if it makes it into the film, the first teaser they showed was just nothing. It was something like flying through the desert, and then the Cave of Wonder opened up. The voice of the Cave of Wonder,
it's the original voice from
it was Frank Welker,
Yeah.
the original voice. So they're really being good about that stuff. It was like in Christopher Robin, they used Jim Cummings, who does
Right.
Winnie the Pooh. So so it's like, okay, good. I don't believe Gilbert Gottfried is playing the parrot. I don't know if the parrot's going to talk. And there is a monkey, which made me happy, but it's a real monkey. So
Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried as the parrot. That was almost a bit much in the.
well, that's what they did at that time. I mean, it's like Eddie Murphy as the dragon in Mulan. They had to have that element to it, and it was hugely successful in Aladdin. So,
Have you heard the Eddie Murphy news recently?
yes,
We're getting a sequel to Coming to America.
very weird.
You know what? I'm down with that because Coming to America was a fun film. It's not sacred. It's, the same actor, so you're not trying to shoehorn something new into the franchise. If they bring back Arsenio, which
Absolutely.
I don't see any reason why they wouldn't.
No,
Yeah, sure, give it a shot, see what happens.
if they, and James Earl Jones is still around. I
is
don't
still
remember if the actress who plays his mother was still alive. I don't know.
I don't know who the actress was.
I don't remember.
But she's a famous. I think she's a
Yes, she
well-known,
was well-known.
actress.
But
Maybe it's the transfer of power. Maybe
he's
maybe
king
James
now.
Earl Jones will be at the end. My son, all this is yours.
Yeah.
Like, whoops, sorry, wrong film,
wrong
film.
one.
He says, my son, I like Star Wars too. Whee!
I've told you my Coming to America story.
They filmed it in your neighborhood.
Yeah, well, more.
Was it McDougal's?
McDowell's?
McDowell's?
But I know exactly where that was, and it confused everybody on the bus for a really long time because it was like, what happened to the McDonald's?
I'd be very.
Or is it a Wendy's? I think it's a Wendy's.
Wendy's, man.
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to see what they do with the story.
Yeah, it'll probably be his son, blah, blah, blah. They usually do something like that.
Yeah. Now his son is coming to America. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's like the Ghostbusters thing. That's kind of what it's the passing of the torch thing.
Which, by the way, apparently
is supposedly real. I mean,
Mr. Reitman has now been handed over the keys, and it will be in the same universe as the first two. Unfortunately, they're just going to leave the female Ghostbusters out as...
which really bothered me because I enjoyed that movie.
It was
a lot.
fun film. Was it as good as the first two? No, but it was a different animal.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
it's not going to be. That's a classic. But it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So,
well, females, they just can't carry a film.
right.
Hashtag Gal Gadot.
Yes.
It feels so weird saying Gadot.
Yeah, I know.
Gadot just sounds so much. Well, it's French, and she's not.
And she's
so.
not even remotely.
She's not. She's not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We watched a little bit of news about this. Apparently, Ben Affleck is officially 100% out.
I think we talked about this last time,
but the new information for me is that he's out. First, he was going to write, direct, and star
As
in
Batman.
The Batman.
Yes.
Then he said, no. It's too much. I will just star and write.
Yes.
And apparently he came to the point where I can't even write this. And that's the new news to me. It's like he wanted to, because he is a screenwriter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what he's mostly known for.
I got to say, that's very responsible on his
Right.
part.
He looked at the task and went, I would rather not do it than try
Then fuck it up.
and fuck it up, because there's one or two nerd boys out there that might take issue with an inferior Batman product.
And he's had his issues with those movies as it is. And,
Exactly.
And the backlash thereof.
Yeah. Daredevil. Sorry.
Well, fucking Batman v Superman and Justice League,
Yeah, but he was Daredevil before, and that was not.
No.
Oh, and I made the horrible mistake about, 6 months ago of watching Elektra.
Oh, I didn't even bother. I didn't mind
because I liked Jennifer Garner in Alias. I thought it was a great show, just wonderful. It got a little weird at the end, but
But again, whitewashing because Elektra is like Greek or something.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not knowing the source material, I did not know that.
Yeah, I believe she's Greek. I very possibly be wrong, but she's not a white girl from Massachusetts.
All right.
But yeah, Affleck. What he says now is that he's still behind Matt Reeves doing it.
Good. He's basically leaving the door, walking out, not slamming it, and not burning the bridge as he leaves the whole area.
He
the
might
Batman
just
area.
be fed up with the whole way it went because it's been like 6 years since he was announced, and the whole point was that he would get his own movie to do it, and then it fell apart, and then the BVS was such a mess.
And he also might have a bit of the George Lucas complex in that, there's nothing I can do that's going to please these people.
Yeah,
you know what? And as much as I will rag George Lucas till the day I die for those damn prequels, I understand where he's coming from. Maybe that, his skills had greatly diminished, in my opinion, as a storyteller from the time of the first 3 films.
Well, there's also, if you go back and look at, there's a documentary or at least a small short film about how his first cut of Star Wars was terrible, and that his wife helped him re-edit it, and Brian De Palma wrote the opening crawl, and they had a lot of hands in it, and they fixed it, and then he didn't direct Empire. It was Irvin Kershner, and he didn't direct, so he might not have ever really been that great a filmmaker.
Exactly. He basically,
had the right people around him.
He fell into the first film, had a great ensemble
and he had a great vision and a great world building.
Exactly.
And I think what happened was
that's the George R. R. Martin thing. He knows the whole thing. It's just getting the narrative to go to those places that is so tedious.
And he's built a giant thing,
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny watching. We were watching this one episode of Game of Thrones, and I was like, man, there's a lot of characters to track.
Yep.
And then at the end of the episode, I was like, oh, this is nicer. They're gonna have a nice wedding. Oh no,
you're not gonna have that many characters.
Yep. And every couple of seasons they seem to purge a lot, because the end of season 6, they cleaned fucking house with blowing up the septum and Tommen jumping out the window, and there was a lot of Queen Marjorie and her brother, and so it was like, so every couple they just like, hey, we gotta wipe some stuff off the board.
Exactly. And that's they set the tone when they killed off their named actor, Sean Bean.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time people going, hold it, what? No,
wait, he's the main character.
How can he die? And then it set the tone for nobody is safe.
Yeah, and then they immediately killed the king, killed Mark Addy, Robert Baratheon, and so
good old, oh god, that guy. I would like to see a sequel, or like I guess it would be a small prequel to Robert Baratheon before we see him for the first time in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Because there's some, the Targaryen and taking the throne and all this stuff like that.
The rebellion and all that.
Exactly. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but on the very few close-ups you see of the it's not called what's it called? The Iron Throne.
Yeah.
That's it, the Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small inscription on the right.
Yeah.
And it says,
Medication time. Medication time.
We ran out of time. I will tell you next week.
The 9 Billion Names of Pod was conceived, written, and performed by Michael Reed and Dan Bauman, with Abdul Beni Hassan as the sound of splintering wood. Research, transportation, and exasperated looks by Courtney Lohner. Technical assistance by Cubase, Pro Tools, Skynet, QLab, Deep Thought, Big Brother, and Eddie, your shipboard computer. Financial consideration provided by the Wayne Foundation, Stark Industries, the Bronner Brothers, and LexCorp. Legal counsel by the Office of Howard & Fine. I didn't mean go listen to the Tenant podcast right now. No, don't turn us off. Don't turn us off! Our show's music was written by Tim Akers. This podcast was sponsored by Deep Shag Records and its production of Audio Primate. Throw us a couple stars on iTunes, why don't you? Stream us on Spotify, listen on SoundCloud, stream us on Stitcher, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or email us, comlink@billionpod.com. And until this happens again, I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm Michael Reed.
Hello, Z.
Audio Primate.